Hello, everybody. This is a great moment for me because I have known Deepak since 1988 when we met in Santa Barbara with my mom, who loved Deepak. I was living in Santa Barbara at the time. But it goes even beyond that because I've always had a fascination with India, with spirituality. When I was 17 years old, I went to India and studied comparative religion at Shantiniketan University, which was founded by Rabindranath Tagore, who has been a big influence, an Indian poet and metaphysician who's been a big influence in Deepak's life. And I just finished reading Deepak's new book that's coming out in May, which is really the story of his journey from India to the West and his brother's journey, and the two doctors coming to America and their different paths. His brother, very, very distinguished physician, dean at Harvard, and Deepak on his lifelong mission of integrating body, spirit, and mind. So this is really the setup for the conversation, and I'm really excited that we're here. All those years later, our different paths have brought us to Las Vegas, Deepak. Who would have known that?
Well, Las Vegas is the most spiritual city on our planet. You know why? Because it doesn't pretend to be what it's not. And that's a good definition to start with.
Authenticity, you know, authentic Venice, authentic Florence. You know, you want authenticity, you come here. So, shall we sit down? Is there a reason? My mother used to say, always lie down if you can, sit down if you can. So why are we standing, right?
Okay.
I think actually I'm supposed to sit here because that's how they wired me.
Okay.
You do get kind of best shoes award, don't you think? Don't you love your shoes? So I want to start with the fact that this is kind of an amazing CES because there is an unprecedented amount of technology that has to do with increasing awareness of our health, our physical health, our stress levels, et cetera, et cetera. So there's something special going on, and I love being able to sort of tap into the zeitgeist and see what's going on, and there's definitely something that is different if you look at all the apps and the devices that are here this year. And Deepak and I both have devices and apps that we're offering. So why don't we start by talking about sleep and what you're offering at CES this year, and then I'll talk a little bit about the GPS for the Soul, which is the Huffington Post app that we are launching. And this will be kind of a starting point, because when you launch a new product, it's been a journey that's taken you there. And so it's really the journey that led you to this Dreamweaver.
Well, at the Chopra Center for Wellbeing, which is in Carlsbad, San Diego, we do a program called Perfect Health, where over 5 days, we teach people the fundamental principles of physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And in our experience, physical well-being ultimately boils down to a few very simple things. Good sleep, exercise, reasonably good diet, maintaining weight, and managing stress, period. Okay, now coming to sleep, we spend 1/3 of our lives in sleep, and now we know a lot about what happens in the brain in deep sleep. So when you go into deep sleep, your brain goes into what is called delta mode. And if you don't have enough deep sleep in a given night, then you have what is called delta deficit. And this is the default mechanism by which your brain recuperates. And there's lots of studies now that show that delta deficit accelerates amyloid deposits in the brain, is responsible for lack of self-repair mechanisms, homeostasis, and 80% of the population in the United States complains of insomnia at some point or the other. And the most frequently prescribed treatment is narcotic medication or tranquilizers or think sleeping pills, which actually do not induce normal sleep. So we developed at the Chopra Center, along with a neuroscientist at Harvard, the chief neuroscientist at Harvard, and the director of the genetics lab there, Rudy Tanzi, a device which is literally a sound and light mechanism that digitally delivers to your brain frequencies of both sound and light, along with meditations and music, but the principal mechanism is optical, and we start at 20 hertz, and soon your brain locks into the 20 hertz. It's called entrainment, and then we slowly dial the frequencies down. So we bring it from the frequencies that are associated with waking state of consciousness to theta, which is dream state, and ultimately to delta. And you fall asleep, and along the way you dream as well. It doesn't take that long. It's called Deepak Dreamweaver, and we just launched it this week.
So this is really how to reduce your stress while you are sleeping, because sleep has become an incredibly stressful thing for many people. I mean, the number of people who are on sleep medications and cannot sleep without it is growing every year. Our offering, which is an app, is called GPS for the Soul, and the intent is to help you during the day monitor your stress. We are all becoming more and more aware of how dangerous stress is, how it affects our relationships, our careers, our health, and yet the GPS for the Soul app is based on two truths. One is that we all have a place of balance, harmony, and peace inside us. And the second truth is that we all spend most of our life away from it. So the question is, how can we course correct? And when we are off that place, get back on it. So the app makes it possible for you to launch a guide that you personalize with the things that help you move into that place that we all love, whatever you want to call it, that special place from which we feel we can deal with anything and achieve anything, and being in the zone, being in sync, whatever you want to call it. You can use spiritual terms, you can use physical terms, but it exists and everybody has experienced it. And everybody knows what it is not to be in it. So the guide, my guide, for example, if you go, you'll see we have some prepackaged guides, including mine. You'll see pictures of my kids when they were little and unproblematic. You have music, poetry, prayers, and while you are looking at all that, there is a breathing pacer, because the breath is the most immediate stress reduction tool, right, Dr. Chopra?
Well, yes. Actually, the one thing that people don't know about that creates what is called the real mindfulness state is sex. After that, yes, the breath.
So, you know, since you may not be able to just have sex in the middle of whatever you are doing during the day, breath is the most available tool, right? So that's really, for me, a way to increase awareness. You know, Deepak, you've written in all your books, including the new one, about the different states that a human being goes through. You know, unconsciousness, awareness, and then self-awareness. And so awareness is really what we get through the GPS, and self-awareness is really when we can understand why are we stressed, or what is it that's producing stress, and how can we deal with it. And that's why we've partnered with different great groups. Two in particular we're launching with. Toktala, I don't know if you are here. Yes, Guy. Okay, can you say something about Toktala? Because one of the problems we're having is that people don't have enough resources to get therapy. And so they rely entirely on pills increasingly. And, you know, pills can help as an adjunct, but they cannot solve the problem. So would you talk about that? And he has an accent, too, so you have to like it.
Not like yours, not as nice as yours. So, hi guys,
so they can see
I'm Oren from Toktala, the founder and CEO. It's a pleasure to be here. And we developed an online group conversation platform. It's very similar to group therapy, if you will, but it's around topics and not around being depressed or being post-traumatized and so on and so forth. And it can be had anonymously. So basically, we try to remove the first two and greatest barriers to entry to therapy, as Ariana mentioned, which is a price. We can actually do an hour of therapy or a conversation with a therapist for less than $10, which is pretty disruptive, we think. And B, drop massively the level of stigmatization. So we can talk about stuff that happens to us in our daily lives, such as I hate my job, or I'm addicted to shopping on Zappos, if you talk to me personally, and not necessarily I'm depressed, I'm anxious, and so on and so forth. And we are very happy to have partnered with Ariana and with GPS for the Soul and offer that to the audience of the HuffPost.
Great. So, reading this new book, which I finished on the plane yesterday, and I actually have my notes from it. At the heart of it is your realization that we need to move from what you call a Newtonian view of human health to an Einsteinian view of human health. And I'd love you to explain that.
Okay, so we use these terms, body, mind, and spirit, right? The body is a field of molecules. You see it, you touch it, you taste it, you smell it. The mind is a field of information, basically. Your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and the sensations you experience in your body gives you information about your body. So you experience your body in your mind as well as the environment in your mind. The sticky point is, what is the soul? If you're a radical atheist, you'll say there's no such thing, okay? But yet spiritual traditions have talked about the soul. Science has never focused to the soul, or because science is all about what you observe, whereas spirituality is about who's doing the observing. Okay, so just to give you a little experience right now, as you're listening to me, just turn your attention to the one who's listening. So as you're listening to me, just be aware of who's listening. So you see there's a still presence there, there's a still observer there. That's your core consciousness, which spiritual traditions call the soul. It's not your mind, which might be saying, I wish I'd gone to the bathroom before the lecture started, or whatever. Okay, your mind is a conversation that happens in the presence of the soul. So in spiritual traditions, Ariana, there have been many techniques. You start with stress management, which is the perception of threat to you the observer. Feels threatened, either physically, emotionally, whatever. Okay? So stress management is all the techniques that allow you to get away from the perception of threat. But then spirituality goes beyond that, because as you become more aware, it opens the window to insight, to intuition, to imagination, to choice, to creativity. And through the ages, people have developed techniques to explore that self-awareness. And these include awareness of the five senses, sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell, awareness of your body, awareness of the inside of your body, including your heart rate. In 2 minutes, I could teach you how to lower your heart rate or lower your blood pressure. And now with these kinds of technologies that Ariana is developing, you could actually see it, right? You could see, oh, I'm really lowering my blood pressure, my heart rate, etc. So awareness of inside of the body, awareness of mental space, which is feelings, emotions, thoughts, images, sensations, and then awareness of relationship, awareness of personal relationship, social relationship, professional, ecosystem, awareness of the universe. That's all part of self-awareness. Then there are other techniques called self-reflection. Who am I? Who's asking the question, who am I? Transcendence, going beyond thought altogether. Conscious choice making. And finally, something which is very difficult for people to understand, which I hope to show at the end through a short video, is the difference between perceptual experience and fundamental reality. Because most of us feel that what we see is what actually is out there, but it's not. It's a representation of your brain, what you see out there. And there's a fundamental reality that's beyond that. Now, what is the beauty of all this is, when you're practicing any of these techniques, you can map the brain through functional MRIs. You can see the blood flow. You can create algorithms that say, when this is happening in your mind, what's happening in your brain? And when this is happening in your brain, what's happening in your body? So you see the connection that this is actually one continuum. Body, mind, and spirit is one continuum. And with the technologies we have today, it's possible to map these and then to self-regulate through what is called biofeedback, but I'd rather use the word bioregulation. Feedback loops are ubiquitous in nature, in biological systems, in the ecosystem, in the whole universe. And GPS for the Soul is actually a biofeedback information device that correlates different activities in the body, mind, and spirit. And ultimately, it should be able to develop algorithms that actually link all these correlations so you can go to higher states of consciousness, beyond self-awareness, soul awareness, what is in spiritual traditions called divine awareness or cosmic consciousness or unity consciousness, because spirituality ultimately is a domain of awareness where we experience our universality. There's one fundamental reality that's now differentiating into Ariana, me, all these people, and Las Vegas.
Well, what is fascinating is that right now there is a convergence between science and spirituality, which is unprecedented. Those two were supposed to be at war. I never believed they were at war. But right now, when we have a neuroscientist, a Harvard neuroscientist like Eben Alexander, who goes into a coma and is very affably in a coma. I mean, his colleagues are there, they know he's in a coma, but in fact, he has consciousness, which medically is not supposed to be happening, and comes back with specific memories and writes a book called Proof of Heaven that is #1 in the New York Times bestseller list. That is something very different than the way we were able to kind of push all these ideas into California flakiness, you know, New Age flakiness, you know, and could ignore them because they would not touch the mainstream. Now what is mainstream and what was supposed to be at the margins are like converging. At the same time, look at corporate America, which is spending $300 billion because of stress of their employees, it's been estimated, a year. So as a result, more and more corporations are now at the leading edge of offering mindfulness trainings and yoga and meditation to their employees. You have General Mills. General Mills, you know, as American, middle America, a company as you can find that is at the forefront of this. And I went to their offices, and it's just amazing. You know, you see senior executives walking in, taking their yoga mats and doing yoga in the middle of the day, or going in and into the meditation rooms. So there is this amazing convergence that has happened. And editorially at the Huffington Post, we feel we want to be at the leading edge of covering and giving tools to our users that can help them incorporate them into their lives. So since you're a pioneer who was really following these things when even your own brother was wondering, is Deepak entirely okay, or is he going off to the deep end? How do you feel about the fact that the world is catching up with you?
I feel good. I feel it's a very interesting time to understand spirituality and consciousness in a way that's not religious, that is secular, that can be looked at in a very scientific manner through the new technologies we have. But we're still very far away, Ariana. You know, the two most important questions in science today, if you look up Science Magazine, 2005, and they listed the 125 unsolved mysteries of existence. Number one, unsolved mystery, what is the universe actually made of? Okay, because only 0.01% of the visible universe is made of atomic matter. Okay, The rest is dark matter, which is invisible in principle, by the way, because it is not atomic, so there's no, it doesn't emit light or absorb light or reflect light. Okay, that's most of the matter in the universe, and there's dark energy, which we have no idea about. So, and then if you exclude interstellar dust, the entire universe, with all the billions of galaxies, which billions of star systems, hundreds of billions, and trillions of planets, is 0.01% of what exists there. The rest is either unknown or unknowable in principle, because our perceptual experience depends on light. Okay? So unknowable in principle. That's the one mystery. And the second mystery is, what is the nature of our consciousness? What is the biological basis of our consciousness? And there's not even a theory for that. Okay? So we are really, even though we feel so good about how much we know, the more we know, the more the unknown and the unknowable looms for us. And therefore, we have to look at wisdom traditions who said there's another way other than the scientific way. And that way is, instead of always looking at what's out there, look in what's inside you. And if you can do that, and if you can get a clear glimpse of what you do, then you have this correlation, but what's out there and what's in here. So it's a very exciting time, but I don't think these mysteries are close to being solved in at least my lifetime.
But I don't think the way that the ancient traditions would approach it is as solving them. They would really approach it as living them. I think solving them is a very sort of Western mental way of
living in the
this.
mystery, yes.
Yeah. But tell me about your view of Eben Alexander's book.
Well, this is a very interesting question. Somebody asked me that on Twitter. And I said, he upgraded the illusion. Okay, and if somebody goes to hell, that's downgrading the illusion, because, and this is something I want to talk about in the last 2 minutes when I showed the video that I was hoping to show from YouTube, that our perceptual reality, whether it is this or heaven or hell or purgatory, is not fundamental reality. Okay, so the new theories in consciousness are suggesting that consciousness, or spirit, if you will, if you want to call it that, but consciousness, that which makes perception possible, right? We are perceiving this because we are conscious beings. But consciousness and perceptual reality to two different things. Let's say there's a mosquito looking at me, there's an insect with 100 eyes looking at me, there's a dolphin that senses the world as ultrasonic or infrasonic. There's a bat that senses the world as the echo of ultrasound, or a snake that sees the world as infrared radiation. They would all have different perceptual experiences. So what we call physical reality is a perceptual experience that depends on a species-specific brain. As consciousness evolves and brains evolve, the appearance of the universe changes. Therefore, everything that you see there is a representation of your brain. It's not fundamental reality. Fundamental reality is the consciousness that makes this perceptual reality possible. This is a very difficult thing to understand. And if I have permission, I can show you a video.
Yes, are we, is the video?
Are we there yet?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. So this is a YouTube video. This is based on something called the multimodal user interface model. This is not it. It's called...
Isn't that you?
Yeah, but there are 20 of these. So we'll go on till you find it. It's called Beyond the Matrix. It's in the same place.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but that looked interesting. I want to go see that. Are we alone? And the answer is no, we're not alone, right? You know.
There it is. Below that.
You found it? Beyond the Matrix.
No, okay, go to the first one. That's fine.
Okay.
Let's see if that's the one.
We're living in the ministry.
No, before that. The one that was before that. You just showed it, actually.
So while we're looking for that,
That's it, the rabbit hole.
that's it?
Yeah. Beyond the matrix. Right now on your computer or your handheld device, you have a number of apps and icons.
Yeah, when you're streaming, I don't know.
Let's not waste time, so we could come back to this. And if we don't end up showing it, it's go to the Chopra Well, youtube.com, the Chopra Well, look for the rabbit hole, and it's called Beyond the Matrix. It explains the difference between what we see and what is fundamental.
Okay, since we can see it later, now
Yes.
we have you live.
Yes.
Let's make an appointment with YouTube and we'll watch it later.
Yes.
So
It's strolling in. I'll let
that's
you know.
okay. I
Yeah.
think we only have 10 minutes left, so I think it's probably...
It's only 3 minutes, so it's fine. Go ahead. Time,
How long do we have?
time is also part of the perceptual illusion, by the way.
We have 5 minutes
Okay,
left.
then let's...
Okay. So
yeah, you
we-
can see that
you
later.
can see
Okay,
it later.
youtube.com, the Chopra Well, the rabbit hole.
So for me, all these questions that we're addressing about perceptual reality, fundamental reality, ultimately only really mattered because they affect how we live our lives.
Correct.
So I'm fascinated by that question. And isn't it kind of amazing how uncurious we are about ultimate reality, since this would completely affect how we lead our daily lives? I mean, if...
Yes, in my experience, Ariana, either when people are diagnosed to have cancer or a fatal illness, or they're getting old and infirm, is when they really think about what is it all about? You know, why am I here? And is there any meaning to my life? Do I have a soul? What is the meaning of death? Does God exist? Is there anything after I die? And unfortunately, we live in a culture that doesn't encourage us to think like this.
Yeah.
Because if we did, I think the technologies that we have would help us to really create a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and happier world, instead of creating diabolical technologies of mechanized death, which is what we're doing. So technology is unstoppable. You can't stop it. It's expanding. The capacity of technology is expanding at the rate of, it's doubling every year. So in 10 years, it'll be 1 million times more than what it is. You can't even imagine what it's going to be. The question is, how are we going to use it?
Well, what is fascinating is that I was reading the biography of Charles Steinmetz, you know, the famous electrical engineer, and he writes in it that he predicted that in the future, the biggest discoveries are all going to be in the spiritual realm. And so the discoveries that are going to fundamentally change the way we lead our lives are going to be in a realm which he, as an electrical engineer, was forecasting would revolutionize everything. And that includes looking at death. You know, it's kind of amazing how little attention we spend on something that is absolutely inevitable. In Rome, you know, they used to carve memento mori, remember death, on statues, on trees, not because they were morbid, but because if we really are aware of that, we would live differently. We would stress less.
I would say that the closest we got, you and me and your lovely sister, was when your mother was dying.
Yes.
Okay, but she was an amazing woman, by the way, a real Greek archetypal goddess, and that's why you have Ariana here as her offspring. But she knew the arts, she knew philosophy, and she had an understanding of science. And when she was dying is when we all actually got close. So I think it's very important to be aware that death is stalking us. You look behind and it's a little closer, and that can make your life magical because every moment is precious.
And also the other moment that was special was when your great partner and friend, David Simon, died. And as it happened, because life is magical, it's like it happened that days after David Simon died, Deepak and my sister and I were supposed to be doing a conversation around my sister's book, which was really about my mother. So there we were, and talking about these deep issues in a very intimate way. You know, these conversations that you have with friends or loved ones, which are really special because they are deeper than our everyday conversations. And how really can we have more of that? Because that's ultimately what distinguishes the magical moments from the everyday moments.
Yeah, and technology is bringing this to our awareness now, because the whole universe, by the way, is a nanotechnology workshop in an infinite mind. And so is your body. It's a field of digital information that is being perceived by us as a physical body. But the closer we get to the deeper understanding of where technology is taking us, the closer it's taking us to the realm of the spirit.
Well, one of the great things to end with is that technology allows this conversation to continue. And I would love to invite you all to send your views, your ideas, your videos to the Huffington Post. We have a dedicated section called GPS for the Soul, as well as a religion section and a science section. And all of them are really there as a platform for this conversation. It's an incredibly important one. You see it being engaged in increasingly by teenagers and the younger generation that I think more than the baby boomers are going to be addressing these questions in their own lives. So I want to thank Jill again and everyone.
Jill, thank you so much.
For putting this together.
Should we try and push play real quick?
I think time is up, right?
Time is up to you, Jill, if you want to run over a little
Yeah,
bit.
we're running it. I've been on my hands and knees.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, run
so
it.
this is a great ending. Yes.
By the way, if it plays, we're running it.
So I know.
If it doesn't play, we'll imagine it.
Increase the volume.
Increase the volume, please.
Beyond the matrix. Right now on your computer or your handheld device, you have a number of apps and icons. Press the icon. What happens? You're immediately transported into a new world. A fresh perceptual reality emerges. But what's happening in the interior of the device? Most of you don't know, and for the most part, don't care. All you want is the perceptual experience of the world you're looking for, and you want it to open and function. But if you are a computer specialist, then you know that what's really happening inside the device is that a series of zeros and ones in various mathematical sequences are just going on and off. Borrowing language from cognitive science, we could say that you are a conscious agent using an interface, the icons and apps, to trigger on and off activities that evoke perceptual worlds. Let's go deeper. We are, all of us, including all living species, from insects to honeybees to dolphins, we are all conscious agents using our perceptual apparatus or brain to interact with a deeper, non-local and virtual possibility field, which manifests. Well, this is saying that you guys have to go to our YouTube channel, okay? YouTube.com, The Chopra Well. Thank you.
What a wonderful,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.